for more than 3 times. We have a very good working relationship with the people of northeastern Kenya, and I don't want leaders who have an issue with me as they try to defend William Ruto to drag in the people of Mandera. Okay. The people of Mandera have nothing to do with this thing. Those are good people. In fact, they have borne the brunt of attacks for many years. And even as we speak today, half of Mandela is occupied by forces from Jubaland, you know? And I would have expected these leaders over the weekend, the governor, the senator, the MPs, who are making a lot of noise about Rigiji, to have defended the people of Mandera from the incursions by forces from Jubaland, instead of castigating Rigathi Gachagua. So I wanted to clarify that the allegations we have made against William Ruto, he's not from Mandera, he's not Somali, he's not Muslim. Let nobody drag in the people of northeastern Kenya from our issues with William Ruto. They should leave us alone with William Ruto to have our own war. Yeah.
All right.
Waswahili wanajuana na vilemba.
Okay. You returned last Thursday.
Yes.
Earlier that week, your former party, UDA, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, and Raila Odinga's ODM had a joint parliamentary group meeting. And it was during this meeting that President William Ruto accused the houses, both houses of Parliament, of corruption. Now, having been a member of the executive yourself as Deputy President, do you share the President's views of corruption at the Senate and the National Assembly?
I share his views 100%, but he has no moral authority at all, absolutely none, to talk about corruption in Parliament, because he's the one who has corrupted Parliament day in, day out. William Ruto pays Parliament for anything that he wants to happen. The finance bill, he paid members of Parliament 200,000 shillings. They passed the finance bill, they were in trouble from the public, and when things backfired, he turned around and threw them under the bus. My own impeachment, the one you are trying to take me through again here, although I underwent that impeachment, I didn't think it was necessary for us to go through it, had nothing to do with gross violation of the Constitution. It had nothing to do with issues that were raised there. Gladys Bose-Sholei told William Ruto in a public rally, you told us to get rid of Rigiji, we did. You had it. Members of Parliament were paid 500,000. Members of the Senate were paid 10 million shillings each to impeach me by William Ruto. He is the one who has taught Parliament to be corrupt. In fact, there's nothing William Ruto does without paying money to people. He cannot now throw these MPs under the bus. And I told these MPs, I remember telling them, this man, I know him, I've been his deputy. He's an expert in use and dump. And the day you lose favor with the public because of following him blindly, he'll abandon you in high noon. What has happened, Yvonne, because I want to tell these members of Parliament and put them into perspective. To start with, William Ruto was complaining not about people being bribed with the 10 million. He seemed agitated that the 10 million bribe that was given did not reach the members. That's what appeared to be disturbing him. He didn't have a problem with the corruption per se. He seemed pained that somebody has paid 10 million, and he was asking the members of Parliament, did you receive the money? And they were there saying, no, we did not receive, which means he was confirming that him and members of Parliament have a working relationship, and he was trying to find out whether this bribe reached those people. What has happened, Yvonne, is that William Ruto is in every scandal in this country, and I believe we are going to discuss SHA, we are going to discuss all those issues. And he's in trouble internationally. When I was in America, nobody wants to hear about him. You remember there's an organization that gave him the second position in the world as the second corrupt leader in the world. And he's trying to shift focus from himself and throw it to the members of Parliament. He's actually throwing them under the bus to the people of Kenya. He's trying to say there's too much corruption so that people can remove the focus from William Ruto and take it to the members of Parliament. That is what he's trying to do. And I told these members of Parliament, the minute this guy realizes that you are of no use to him and you are expendable, he'll throw you under the bus. Number two, he said he is going to form a multi-agency to deal with corruption. To start with, that is wrong because we have independent institutions to deal with corruption, EACC and the DPP. William Ruto cannot take over investigations because that is interfering with independent offices and is interfering with the constitutional commissions. But let me tell the members of Parliament and Senate what is happening. And they'll thank me one day. I know William Ruto like the back of my hand. I stayed with him. This is what is happening. Most of these senators and members of Parliament, except from Rift Valley, know that William Ruto is done his one term. And they know if they are in UDA, they will be sent packing. So they have been talking in bars, in social places, saying we are with Ruto to get what we can. Next year, we'll defect. They have been saying we are waiting for the last budget. Once we get our projects, we'll have to align with the people because if we go in UDA, we shall not be elected. William Ruto said he is a consumer of raw intelligence. He monitors all these MPs. You can ask me, I was his deputy. He has a file on each one of them. All this money he was bribing them, he has recordings. Ask me, I was his deputy. There is another senator who went to collect some money from some businessmen from Nakuru. I've even seen the video. You know, he has all these recordings for all these bribes, for all these things the MPs have been doing. William Ruto is a smart man. He knew one day these guys can shortchange him and they can abandon him. So he knows that next year there will be mass exodus. So this multi-agency team he has formed is to collect evidence and create files on all leaders in Kenya. And he'll call them one by one. I hear you want to leave UDA and go to DCP and go to Wiper. This is your file. Try. Next week you are in court. Same for governors, same for everybody. Why would William Ruto want to take over investigations? He said when he formed the government that he'll make sure the National Police Service is independent. He'll give it money. He'll make sure judiciary is independent. He'll make sure the DPP is independent. Today he is saying he wants to form a multi-agency team under the office of the president to deal with corruption. I can tell you, and I want to tell these members of Parliament, you will have to stick with William Ruto to the end. You'll go home together because the minute you try to move and abandon him, like it happened to Moi in the year 2002, he will have a file on all of you. So all those senators who took money during my impeachment, all those MPs who took money during my impeachment, all those MPs who took money for the finance bill, all those MPs who have been taking money from William Ruto and his cronies for various things in Parliament, William Ruto has a file on each one of you, and none of you will be able to abandon him. For the money that you took, you have to stick with William Ruto up to the ballot. And you try, and you tell me, you have seen already, the EACC after William Ruto spoke. That is a script, you can see how good it is. The minute he spoke, the EACC said William Ruto has done that. That's done well. He says we are 4 governors now at the radar. And you see the governors at the radar. Kimani Wamatangi, because he doesn't agree with the Kimani Ichung'wah in Kiambu. So they are using that file to coerce him politically, you know. And what will happen now, this multi-agency team, it has been outlawed by the court, but he still formed it. They are going to create files to enable William Ruto to deal with people like ourselves, who don't agree with him, and to hold all those leaders who are with him, who may want to abandon him and go to another political party.
All right. So you are saying that both houses of parliament are not independent?
No, they are not independent.
Okay.
You saw, Yvonne, let me cut you short. You saw an MP speak in Parliament. Said, Mr. President, you told us to pass the finance bill, we passed for you. You told us you want SHA, we were here until 10 p.m. You told us to do this, we were there. All those things, they don't do it on behalf of the people of Kenya. Mm-hmm. They do it for William Ruto, and he pays them for it. Of course, we must say there are few members of great integrity and who have a moral conscience who have refused to take money from William Ruto. And they are all his enemies. He is harassing them using KRA, he is harassing them using DCI, and I know using this multi-agency team.
Okay.
All those members who refuse to take money from him are going to be on his radar.
All right. Kenya Kwanza stood out for its thirst to control the Houses of Parliament.
Yes.
And I want to speak to you now as the person who held the position of Deputy President at the time. Didn't you, as the executive, and by you I mean yourself at the time as Deputy President, President William Ruto, as the President, and the entire executive, did you not decide who should be Speaker of the National Assembly? Was that not part of the agreement?
No, we did. It was in the shareholding agreement.
Okay. Did you decide who should be Speaker of the Senate?
Yes, it was in the shareholding agreement.
Did you decide who should be Majority Leader for both houses?
It was decided after the election.
Did you also decide who should chair each of the committees?
Yes, it was.
In both houses?
It was.
Didn't you also cause members of the party and the alliance at that moment to attend meetings at State House, to give them instructions on your agenda, what to vote for, how to vote?
Yes, we did.
And so the grand total of this was what? Control of the legislature by the executive?
It was
So why?
The intention.
What was the intention?
The intention was to push the government's legislative agenda.
Okay, so this was a push that came from the executive.
Yes.
Are you then now surprised that members of National Assembly and the Senate are speaking the language of the executive when you yourself are a part of the executive making these decisions, where the member of the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the National Assembly, all came from the party that you rode on to power?
I think it was a very good.
If you are saying today that we don't have independent Houses of Parliament, aren't you then responsible for that? Because this was your doing with President William Ruto.
Yvonne, that's a very good observation. The intention was very noble. When we formed government, we had a manifesto, a great manifesto, bottom-up economic transformation agenda. Creating good business environment, lifting people from the bottom of the pyramid. We wanted a majority in Parliament to help us push that agenda. Okay? Where I differed with William Ruto is when we abandoned our agenda, our manifesto. And he started pursuing personal agenda. The housing levy was not part of our agenda of forcing people to pay taxes to build houses.
All right. I want us to come back and we will go step by step and talk about the affordable housing levy for just a moment. Yes. And you talk about seeking to have a majority in the House to push government's agenda.
Yes.
That's all well and good. The Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly, their role is not to push government agenda. Their role is to be arbiters.
Their work was to be good arbiters,
right,
to regulate debate and to protect the independence of the institution.
How would they do that if they were former party members and if they got those positions as part of an agreement for bringing votes to this administration? How would they be neutral?
It behoves upon a speaker when he assumes that position. Justin Bidan Muturi was nominated by TNA to be speaker in 2013 and Jubilee in 2017. But that man had an impeccable record. You never saw him in a public rally doing empowerment and singing praise and worship to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Justin Muturi regulated debate and allowed everybody to speak. I'm sorry, supporting Uhuru Kenyatta or campaigning for him. What dignity spells out is that once you get the position of speaker, because you must come from somewhere, you can't come from the moon, you can't come from the air, you must come from somewhere. So when a political party nominates you and you are elected as speaker, once you have assumed that position as the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Senate, you now rise above, partisan politics and become the arbiter of that house, unregulated, undignified. I have seen Wetangula allowing me to be discussed in Parliament without somebody moving a substantive motion. And in Parliament, you cannot discuss an individual unless you move a substantive motion. In that Parliament, Wetangula does not allow members who don't support William Ruto to speak. He is very selective. In fact, he has really eroded the dignity of the National Assembly. From 1963 We are the lowest in terms of the speaker. You know, I have seen him in public rallies singing praise and worship to William Ruto. I have seen him doing harambes for women and youth. That is the problem, that the two speakers have refused to rise above partisan politics and play their role as speakers of those institutions.
Kenyans have interpreted the war between the executive and both houses of parliament as a possible sign of disagreement between potential partners in high-level corruption. Do you see it that way?
Yes. In fact, all these things, all these fights you see between parliament and the executive is about corruption. Because William Ruto has made Kenya, you know, State House is a crime scene. Kenya is a criminal enterprise as a country. So what has happened, Yvonne, I must tell you the truth. When William Ruto introduced money in parliament for the impeachment, he paid a lot of money. He whetted the appetite of the MPs and the senators. 10 million. So these guys want money every day.
Did you counter that offer?
Yeah.
Did you counter that offer during your impeachment?
I did not. In fact, people came to me and said, Rigi, we like you, we love you, but we are being offered this. Can you give a counter offer? I said, no, I don't have the money. And even if I had, I don't think I believe in this. Just go ahead and do what you must do. Others came. In fact, there is an MP from the coast, a friend of mine, a great friend of mine. He came and showed me the messages William Ruto had sent him, threatening him to jail him if he doesn't sign for me. And he came and said, I have children, my brother, I am crying as I do this, but I've been forced. These are the messages. Another MP from South Rift, a good friend of mine, came and showed me the messages of threats and intimidation from William Ruto. In fact, Okia Omtata, that guy is a great man. When I sent word to him, appealing not to participate in impeaching me, he said, I cannot impeach you. And the person I had sent, he asked, did he send you with a counter offer? He said, no. He said, I will not impeach him. Had he sent you with a counter offer, I would have impeached him because I don't like corruption. You know? What has happened is that William Ruto introduced money in parliament. Of late, he has shifted focus to ODM and Raila Odinga. And he is spending a lot of his money now with ODM MPs. Now the MPs from Kenya Kwanza are feeling abandoned. And the money is not flowing as much as it was flowing. So they have decided to look for the money from other people. So when the ministers come, put the money here. When PSs come, put the money here. William Ruto, you started it all. Don't complain. This is your baby. You are the one who introduced high-level corruption in the National Assembly and in the Senate. You cannot turn around and condemn what you have started yourself. You are the one who told these MPs that every man and woman has a price. I heard him say it in his presence, that every man and woman has a price. So what has happened, Yvonne? Like the MPs from my backyard are in trouble. They cannot address any meeting unless they pay people. You know? This deputy president, he cannot address any meeting unless he puts people in a tent and gives them money. Now, William Ruto is not giving these MPs money anymore. They need to go to the ground and talk to people and they don't have money. So what do you expect them to do? Anytime a PS is called for a committee, they say you must give us money. Anytime the minister is called, give us money. So the ministers and PSs have gone to cry to the president. We are unable to do any work now in parliament because anytime we go, there's too much extortion. What do we do? That is why the president was creating hell, because the ministers are going to him to tell him, we are unable to transact in parliament because everybody is demanding money. But he is the one who started it. He is the one who introduced money as the method of transaction in the National Assembly and the Senate.
Do you think high-level corruption is an issue in the country?
It's a big issue. It's actually our biggest issue. In fact, when you took a break, people are sending me messages asking, what is this Yvonne is asking you? Ask her, we want to discuss about corruption. Because this is what is ailing our country. And I can tell you, Yvonne, State House has become a crime scene. 2 weeks ago, 15,000 young people were there. They were each given 2,000 as a bribe so that they can say 2-term. Corruption is being practiced in the highest office in the land in broad daylight. The deputy president is carrying money with sacks, bribing women, bribing young people to say 2 term. And then the president is here pretending that he can fight corruption. Where does he start? When he was talking in that meeting, after the meeting, he gave those MPs each 100,000. After complaining that they're asking for money and he doesn't want corruption, why was he giving them 100,000? Those MPs have salaries. Why was he giving him money? So what I'm saying is, and Yvonne, when we get to the right discussion, we must discuss where we are as a country. It's because against the advice of Uhuru Kenyatta and many people that we are going to elect William Ruto and he's a corrupt man, and we'll cry. We are crying. And I myself take blame because I ignored it. I thought it's propaganda. And corruption has become a way of life. Corruption is the modus operandi in our administration, and State House is a crime scene, and bribery is a major policy of this administration.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about a promise that was made when this administration came to power, about 39 days before the election. President Ruto, whom you served as running mate, promised the formation of a state capture inquiry in the country. You're on the record yourself as accusing former President Uhuru Kenyatta of state capture. This promise was made that it would be done within the first 30 days. You were DP within those 30 days. Those 30 days lapsed, and to date, we still don't have a state capture inquiry.
It will not happen.
What changed yours and the president's mind on this?
Once we reached State House, William Ruto was no longer the same man we knew. The man changed. The man changed. And I can tell you for a fact, he changed. Before we were elected, he was in his home every week. Every week he was here taking tea up to midnight. Since he became president, he has never come back here. Even when we did not have issues for a year, we were quite free and friendly. He never came back here. He was too busy taking over and capturing the state. And when we get to the real business, I'll tell you how William Ruto has captured the state. So he could not agree to have a commission for state capture because he intended to do it himself. And he has perfected it and actually overdone it to a point that the country is almost crumbling, to a point where now children cannot go to school because there is no money for capitation, to a point where people now are paying money to ghost hospitals, to a point where public money is being stolen and given to the deputy president to go and bribe people in broad daylight without being ashamed. You know what is shocking me, Yvonne, is impunity. A president here is talking about corruption. His deputy every day is spending 10 million every day. Money that of course he has not earned, money that cannot come from his salary or his businesses, and everybody knows this is stolen money. And they are doing it with brazen impunity without caring what the people of Kenya are saying. So corruption has become a way of life. So I'm saying, William Ruto, please respect the people of Kenya. Don't talk about corruption again, because that is an insult. Because you are the one who is leading from the front. And you are the one who is setting the example to everybody. You are the one who has inducted members of parliament and senate into corruption. How can you then go ahead and condemn them that they are corrupt?
And you say the president is usurping the powers and the authority of bodies like the EACC and the DPP?
You saw the chairman of the EACC respond after the president spoke. That tells you, if the chairman of the EACC says the president has done well to allow us, it means then they are not independent. And if they allow, as they will, allow William Ruto to take over EACC and to take over the DPP office, what will happen is that we are going to see a lot of trumped-up charges against people who oppose William Ruto. Again, there is going to be a lot of blackmail to leaders to make political decisions.
Okay. I want to put it to you that perhaps this is something you're saying now that you are outside of government, and that perhaps part of the proof of EACC and the DPP doing the will of the executive was in fact proven in your case. Mr. Gachagua, shortly after the Kenya Kwanza came into office, the charges against you were dropped. The charges against then Cabinet Secretary in October 2022, Aisha Jumwa, there was a corruption case where she was accused, allegedly, of embezzling about 19 million shillings. There was charges against then Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi of attempted rape. All of those were dropped right after the election, right after you took office, right after assumption of office of these individuals. And so some would say that this is indeed proof of exactly what you're saying, that the EACC
I don't know about the cases of other people.
And the DPP were done in your favor. And so you are, in fact, a beneficiary of the executive usurping the authorities of these independent constitutional bodies.
Not true.
So are you saying this now because you are out of government and not a beneficiary?
In my case, not true, because what happened is that the fourth administration was doing what William Ruto is doing. Okay? It was using the criminal justice system to punish those who are opposed to it. The fourth administration was unhappy that I was supporting William Ruto. Yeah? And therefore, they brought charges against me, and there was no evidence. So once we came into office, the DPP got to the DCI to swear an affidavit. It's on record in court and said we had nothing against this man. We were told to prosecute him. We had no evidence. Even if that matter proceeded, it would still have been dismissed by the courts. Okay? What pains me, Yvonne, and I feel very sad, is at that time when we were being persecuted by the fourth administration, William Ruto saw that in his administration, never again will he allow the use of the criminal justice system to punish those opposed to him. Yeah? He gave that undertaking that he'll never allow. And politics will be done the conventional way, through persuasion and consensus and concurrence. The minute he became president, I don't know what happens to that state house. Somebody is elected, he's a good man. When he reaches there, sometimes I even get very worried of being elected president. Somebody who was a reasonable person, somebody who was saying great things, somebody who was sensible, somebody who was for the rule of law, he becomes president and becomes a monster undertaking. In private and in public. That under his watch, in his leadership, he would never allow the use of the criminal justice system to pursue politics. That's exactly what he's doing, And that's what I'm saying is, I don't believe he is the same person. Sometimes I think he's a double, because this man used to sit with me here with Pastor Dorcas, and we pray together. And the things he said he cannot do. Kwanza, he said in an interview, I will never allow anybody to punish my deputy. I will never allow anybody to lack respect for him. I will never allow anybody to do to my deputy what Uhuru Kenyatta has done to me. He not only did the same, but he went ahead to do what Uhuru Kenyatta never did to him, to pay people to throw him out of office. And this is the same man. So sometimes, I don't know whether he is the same person. Sometimes I get lost.
Why do you think, so you're saying the president punished you?
I'm saying what he had said he would never do. He not only did it, but went ahead to throw me out of office.
Why do you think he did that?
Because I could not agree to many things that he was doing. He had wanted a Mr. Yesa. He had wanted somebody to agree to corruption, somebody who can agree to killings of young people. I told him off. I told him no. And I said I cannot agree.
All right, let's speak about some of the things that are in the country right now,
yes,
and that you seemed to agree with. The Social Health Authority, SHA, something you were a big supporter of, then, now appears to be suffering a series of scandals. At least the Ministry of Health is defending itself, is defending its record, saying there is no fraud at the Social Health Authority. You sat there when this was being mooted. What was the proposal? And do you think, in hindsight, that
initially I supported.
Yeah. What was the idea that you supported?
We had committed.
Yeah.
We had committed in our manifesto to improve on NHIF and actually make it available to every Kenyan. And in fact, we promised to reduce the payments for ordinary people from 500 shillings to 300. We went ahead to promise that those who would not pay, who had no income at all, yeah, will be covered, by the fund without having to make any contribution. Those are the things that we did. So when we came in, we got the former CS for Roads, Kamau, to come and chair the board of NHIF. And he started on a process of how to reform it and make it better. And proposals were done, and it was agreed they needed to improve the cost of about 800 million to make NHIF more responsive, to make it more efficient, to serve the people of Kenya. William Ruto put a team of advisors at State House who are working parallel from the ministers. And they came up with this thing called SHA. Yeah? And they said NHIF is bad, there was a lot of fraud, we must reform it and we must change it completely. And this thing was brought and we started interrogating it. Along the way, I started getting feelers that this thing was a scheme to rip off the people of Kenya. Yeah? And they proposed that we create a new system that will cost 104 billion Kenya shillings. And I asked William Ruto, my brother, if the board of NHIF is saying they can reform this system at 800 million, why do we need a new system costing about 104 billion? He said, no, we will do it this way. This thing was forced. That's why you had an MP say, we pass SHA for you. This thing was pushed by William Ruto. This 104 billion, Yvonne, is pure theft of public funds. It's the biggest rip-off in the history of the independent Kenya. This system does not exceed 1 billion shillings. 103 billion shillings had been stolen by William Ruto and company. And that is why it is him, because you had the MP saying, we passed you a SHA. Okay? And that is why he was saying when he was in Sagana, explaining why we deferred. Oh, did you ever hear Rigathi deferred the health system? Did you ever hear him deferred the education system? Did you ever hear him talking about the housing program? I told him, give me a break. I cannot defend corruption. I said, Mr. President, excuse me, forgive me. I could not help you to defend SHA. This is outright theft of public funds. Now, after stealing 104 billion shillings, Duale and company now, the little money people have been deducted from their salaries, the little money that people are paying for SHA, this money they are sending to non-existent hospitals and stealing it. And this is the money that is doing empowerment programs by Mr. Soprano. This is the money that William Ruto is using to bribe people in State House. Where do you think this money is coming from? I heard him asking the governor of Mandera, not governor of Mandera. He was saying there is a governor who has paid 150 million. Where did he get it from? I want to pose you the question, Mr. William Ruto. This money you are bribing people. This one you have given Soprano to bribe people. Where are you getting it from? This is money for SHA. Now, Aden Duale is telling us, an abusing journalist, Yvonne, that we have shut down the hospitals. How do you shut down hospitals that do not exist? Please, these people, the impunity, the kind of contempt they have for the people of Kenya. A minister telling the people of Kenya, they have discovered that money is being paid to non-existent hospitals, ghost hospitals. And his reply is that, no, we have shut down those hospitals. Where is the money? What measures has he announced today? If these hospitals were non-existent, if these hospitals were not compliant, and they have been shut because they are not compliant, has he announced how we shall recover this money? I would have expected William Ruto, the new champion of fighting corruption in Kenya, to talk about this. Instead, he's only talking about 10 million and is complaining it has not reached the MPs who are his friends. That is his only concern, that 10 million was bribed, it did not reach MPs. William Ruto, why are you not speaking about this 10 billion? By today, in a country of the rule of law, Duale should be at home. You know?
What
and
for?
We are saying,
what for?
He should have been sacked. This is a scandal of unknown magnitude. You have seen today the website for SHA, where the records were, showing who has been paid, has been stepped down, so that you people do not interrogate these hospitals. Because what would have happened, you people are very imaginative. With the list they are showing who has been paid, you would have sent your correspondents all over the country to see whether the hospitals exist. And because they don't exist, that is why they have removed, those details from the website, so that Kenyans do not interrogate, they do not audit the theft of public funds.
And then there is also the affordable housing, again, something else that you touted. In fact, you were on record as telling everybody that this is something that you should pay up. What changed along the way?
Initially, Yvonne, I supported this program.
Yes.
William Ruto is very convincing. He's a very convincing guy. And he's very deceptive. Extremely deceptive. He had convinced all of us that this housing program, affordable, was a good thing for Kenya. That it will create employment for our young people, that this program, we need slum upgrading, we need to dignify our people, blah, blah, blah. It sounded very nice. Only to realize later, it's nonsense.
At what point did you make this realization?
After 1 year. It's when I started seeing what's going on. To start with, when he forced people now to have the housing levy. Because the question people were asking me, and I never asked him.
What was the idea for you in your mind with this?
Initially, we thought it's a genuine thing. Only to realize that it's about business. That William Ruto has seen a business opportunity to sell cement, to sell steel, and to sell iron sheets. Again, to partner with developers to make money. And for that program to succeed, it needed a source of money. So he had to create a housing levy so that the money is flowing. And this money has been put in Sidan Bank, a bank that he bought immediately we came into office. Okay? Sidan Bank is level 3, is tier 3. According to the central bank regulations, all money belonging to parastatals and governments must be put in tier 1. Tier 1 is Cooperative Bank, Equity, Barclays, those big banks. But he told central bank to allow Sidan to receive money from SHA and also money from housing. So that bank has grown, from a profit of 300 million in 1 year to 1.2 billion.
So I want to understand this. You're saying, so at what point did you realize SHA, according to you, wasn't the idea that you needed?
The first 1 year.
Housing in the first 1 year.
The first 1 year
okay.
of our administration is where it started becoming very clear to me that this William Ruto was not a genuine man. He had conned us, he was deceptive, and he's a businessman, and he's not interested in the country.
And yet, Mr. Gachagua, you stayed and then got impeached, and it is only after your impeachment that you started to speak out about all of these things, about organizing meetings.
I spoke before.
So my question to you is, you say you are not a yes man, and that's why the president doesn't like you. Yes. You say you realized that, SHA and affordable housing had issues with all of these. Were you ever going to say some of these things before you were impeached?
Yes.
Would you have continued to serve in the administration of President William Ruto? I asked you about some of these things a little earlier. You said, well, what could I do? He was president. You could have resigned, Mr. Gachagua, if you have such
I couldn't have
issues.
Resigned.
Why not?
The framers of the 2010 Constitution are very wise. Why did they want a president and a deputy elected? So that they can check each other. That's what I was doing. I was checking from inside until a point he couldn't stand it. And he decided to get rid of me. What happened?
Mr. Gachagua, you were not very successful with checking him.
No, I was. Let me tell you. Let me now.
Well, tell us.
That's why. I went to cabinet and opposed the finance bill of 2024. I did.
2023?
2024.
Okay.
I said no. And it was put on record. And he was mad with me. And I went in public meetings asking the MPs to listen to the ground. It was a way of checking. Because when you are deputy president and there is a finance bill, and when people ask me, what do you think about this finance bill? I say, listen to the ground. The people did not want it. I told the MPs, listen to the ground. And the president was mad with me. Finally, when it came to cabinet, I went and opposed the demolitions and evictions of Nairobi River. If you remember, it was one of the charges in the Senate against me. I opposed when I was deputy president. I did not oppose when I left office, Yvonne. I opposed when I was in office. And it was a charge of insubordinating the president because of saying no. Our manifesto was clear that we shall never carry out demolitions and evictions until we have settled the people.
Okay.
When the Gen Z protest came, Yvonne, I want to put it on record so that we are speaking from the same page. I opposed abductions and killings. And when the president insisted, and our kids were shot and killed on June 25th, 2024, on the 26th of June, as deputy president, I called a press conference in Mombasa and castigated President William Ruto and the Director of National Intelligence Service for abductions and extrajudicial killings. I am not doing it because I'm outside, Yvonne. I was doing it from inside. And that is why the president now could not stand it anymore. In fact, it's after my press conference on June 26th is when he made a decision he must get rid of me. And it took him about 4 months. He started putting things into motion. And I told the president, I think it was on June 22nd, when I saw the operation order, what had been planned, the killings, the abductions, I went and I said, Mr. President, I am a parent, you are a parent. I have 2 young boys, you have young children. How can we kill these people simply because they are saying the finance bill is not acceptable? Why can't we listen to them? He said, my friend, you are in government, you do what we are saying. So the subsequent meeting for National Security Council, I was not invited because I would have opposed the operation. So when it happened, on June 25th, the president called a press conference at night. He did not invite me, and he said, this was treasonous, these are criminals, they'll pay for it. I was mad because I knew these children were innocent, and they were simply clamoring for their rights and the rights of the people of Kenya. And what happened, Yvonne, is that nature abhors vacuum. The minute the president captured Parliament, the minute he compromised Raila Odinga, there was nobody else to speak for the people of Kenya. And since nature abhors vacuum, the Gen Z just came up, because that's the way nature operates, and they started speaking for the people of Kenya. So I made a decision. I flew to Mombasa. I called a press conference, and that marked the end of the relation between me and President William Ruto. We never spoke again. We just pretend we are speaking, but we never met one-to-one. We never spoke on telephone. We were speaking on messages until the day I left office. So you cannot say, Yvonne, that I spoke because I left. I started speaking. For 1 year, I was speaking from inside. And that's why he was accusing me. You know, he was telling me to defend Adani. I told him I will not. He says, go to the TV stations and defend the university model. I said, I will not. Because the thing is not good. You know, I was in a funeral in Kitale. And the Senator for Kisii, Richard Oyonka, really attacked the government because of Adani. And I spoke last. I did not say anything. I talked about other things. I left. And the president's PA called me all manner of names. Wewe ni mujinga sana, you are very stupid. You are deputy president, you spoke last. Somebody has attacked the government and you cannot defend. What kind of a deputy are you? I said, my friend, tell the president to call me and tell him I cannot defend corruption. Adani is corruption, I will not defend. Then he said, utatuona. The rest is history. Yvonne, I am a credible man, I'm a man of honor. And I was prepared to face the consequences of standing with what is right and what is true.
I want us to speak about those protests for a moment and the state of rule of law and order in the country. Since those protests, There have been the abductions, there have been the killings, and there's also now an attempt at charging some of those who are involved in the protests using terror charges in the terror charge sheet. What are your thoughts as to where we are now, the state of the nation now, following the protests, in terms of the state of the rule of law? There's been talk and questions of having dialogue at this point. What is your thought on the state of rule of law following everything we've seen with the protests in the country, and what the way forward or the way out of that impasse looks like?
Yvonne, I saw the president gazetting Katiba Day, and I was flabbergasted as to how foolish William Ruto think the people of Kenya are. Katiba Day? He has violated the Constitution from the first chapter to the last one. Freedoms in the Bill of Rights have been taken away from the people of Kenya. These young people who were abducted, they were within their constitutional right to question government. Yet, and I've said many times, when the Gen Z started becoming very vocal, the president authorized the formation of a killer squad of 101 officers from the administration police who were seconded to the National Intelligence Service and given very high-skilled training in abductions, killings, and cover-up. And that is a squad that has caused havoc in this country. And it works under the National Intelligence Service. It was authorized by William Ruto. That is a squad that is responsible for gross violation of human rights. And what is sad, Yvonne, and this matter was raised with me in America, and I heard Akina Wetangula saying I went to talk bad about my country. I never talked bad about my country. I love my country. Kenya is a great country, and I told the people in America as much. But we have poor leadership. We have bad leaders. What is shocking, Yvonne, is after all this, a president who is elected by the people, a country with a constitution, a country that has a very strong Bill of Rights, can publicly issue orders for people to be shot in the leg and then taken to the